Let's bring in our guest to break down some of the things that we saw in these openings. We have with us this hour National Trial Attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan with us. Mackenzie, I want to talk to you about something else that happened inside of that courtroom. There was a pretty shocking reveal that we've only gotten bits and pieces about up until this point, and that's the existence of a jailhouse informant that the prosecution has made filings about. The defense has tried to suppress it, but it sounds like this jury is going to hear more about Drina Bernhardt. Let's take a listen back first, and I want to get your reaction to it. To the prosecutor explaining to jurors this information they got in the new investigation of Donna Adelson. That's after she was arrested and put behind bars.
Law enforcement received information from women who said that the defendant, Donna Adelson, was offering them bribes in exchange for false testimony in this trial. They said Donna Adelson promised them money, housing, veneers, prescription drugs, if they were willing to testify that Catherine Magbanua told them a completely different story about the crime than the one that she would be testifying to. One informant was even able to show law enforcement a script, a question and answer session for a direct examination in trial that Donna Adelson herself wrote, and that Donna Adelson wanted this informant to memorize and come into court and perjure herself by reciting it to you here in trial.
Mackenzie Joy Brennan, they have a note they say she wrote in jail. If you were her defense team, which these defense attorneys were not her attorneys early in the case, but they likely were during the writing of this note, I mean, your reaction to knowing that they have this evidence against Donna?
Well, obviously, anything beyond circumstantial in this case is going to make a huge difference. So that is quite a blow, I'd say, especially, anything that helps build the credibility of jailhouse informants is good, because that's the obvious question that comes up all the time is, there's such a vested interest in these folks saying anything that's useful. But offering things like veneers, that does track, that's credible here. And then obviously having something in writing is really damning. So that, is a piece of hard evidence that's going to come into this constellation that the biggest problem for the prosecution is a lack of hard evidence. So I think that could make a huge difference.
Yeah, she can probably explain away, and we know her team has tried to explain away why she was getting out of Dodge, why she was going to Vietnam, just because she thought she might be arrested and didn't believe that she was guilty. But writing a script for someone to get on the stand and lie, that is going to be a really difficult hurdle for this defense. Let's talk more about the defense. They took an unusual approach. For those who watched Charlie Adelson's trial, they will notice that Jackie Fulford gave a completely different opening statement for the defense than we saw in Charlie's trial. And something that the cameras may not have seen is that during that trial, she set up two easels. One huge photo on that easel was Dan Markel. It was a headshot photo that we've all seen of him. And next to it, she had the players, not Donna Adelson really, on it. Let's take a listen, though, to what she had to say to this jury, where she not only acknowledged the amazing accolades of this victim, but she said that she can't understand why we're here.
They put her at the top of this pyramid. She's the matriarch. She's the matriarch mastermind behind Danny being killed, and they don't have evidence of that. That's what's outrageous. It's outrageous that he got killed, but it's also outrageous that we're sitting here with a jury.
Mackenzie Joy Brennan, what do you think about this approach? I'll be honest, for me, it felt uncomfortable that the defense was spending so much time acting like they were best friends with the victim. I mean, with his parents there, a woman on trial for his murder, and it's the defense that spent all this time talking about his background. Do you think that that's effective and connects with the jury?
I think that clearly is something that the defendant herself appears to be leaning into. I think that all of these emotive displays really fit with that strategy. So it makes me wonder if that is something that came from her herself, that she felt she could really sell it, that she can legitimately cry about these photos from the medical examiner and whatnot. I do think that tracks with what she's showing. Now, whether that resonates with the jury, it's hard to say. I'm not sure if you've gotten any reaction from them, and obviously the judge has curbed some of Donna's reactions herself. So it is a little bit of a slap in the face if it doesn't land. So we'll see which way that falls.
Yeah, I'll tell you, they certainly were paying attention to everything, but not a lot of note-taking. It seemed that the defense didn't give them anything that would have been an aha moment that they want to remember for later. But Mackenzie, stand by. We've got to get to our break because we're getting word that they are going to be starting up soon inside of that courtroom. 1:15 is when they're going to be coming back from the lunch break. So let's get to our break. And when we come back, go back in for the next witness on the stand for the prosecution.
Are you not entertained?
Friday nights, the WNBA is on Ion. The Lynx battle the Fever.
Thrills it.
Then, the Valkyries take on the Mercury. Coverage begins tonight at 7. Find Ion wherever you watch. Ion, it's on.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, the next chapter in the murder for hire of Dan Markel begins in a Florida courtroom. We're unpacking today's opening statements in the trial of Donna Adelson.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae here live outside of the Leon County Courthouse in Tallahassee, Florida, where we are watching together the case against Donna Adelson. Here's a live look at the courtroom. We are waiting for all of the parties to come back. They are on a lunch break there. That's why we have our cameras on the seal. But this case is all about the 2014 murder of law professor and father of two, Dan Markel, and the woman, his ex-mother-in-law, who is now accused in his murder. There have been several other people who have been charged and convicted in this case, and this prosecution has taken a unique approach. They have gone one by one at these defendants to bring them to justice, and now we are on the fifth defendant, Donna Adelson. Let's bring back in our guest while we are waiting, and we'll take you inside of that courtroom live as soon as we see that the cameras move and we're on the record. But we have National Trial Attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan still with us. And Mackenzie, before we went to break, you mentioned the emotion that we're seeing inside of this courtroom, whether it's true or fake or feigned, but coming from Donna Adelson. But I want to highlight who is inside of this courtroom for Dan Markel. That's his family. Today was the first day that we saw them in the gallery. During jury selection, there were jurors everywhere. It was really difficult for them to be in the row where they are behind the prosecution. But who's there for him is his mother, Ruth Markel. You see her there. She has been an outspoken advocate for grandparents' rights, even here in Florida, because one of the tragedies of this case is that they have lost communication and contact with the grandsons, the children of their slain son. Phil Markel, Danny's father, is there as well, sitting next to her, and Shelly Markel, his sister, also there on the front row. And I noticed Ruth Markel get up and leave during the testimony that was going to be detailing the injuries, the gunshots, and the horrific pictures that we saw. And his father and sister stayed in the courtroom. They stayed somber. They stayed stoic. I mean, so strong after 11 years of having to see the same trial play out. But meanwhile, we see Donna Adelson and her reaction. I mean, and her attorneys came and patted her on the back. They were consoling her. It was a moment inside the courtroom. Talk a little bit more about what you think in terms of allowing that to happen. We know the judge admonished her.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't fully control somebody's reactions, assuming that they are real and not feigned. I just can't imagine the position that his parents are in. You know, this is the fifth time that they're doing this in a formal setting. Obviously, every day they're going through it, and the grandparents' rights piece of it, I think, is arguably highlighted by the fact that this is the grandparent on the other side. It's all very messy, and I don't believe that the judge's admonition is really going to stop her from these outbursts, because it does seem like that is who she is. It's a big piece of their strategy, clearly from the opening, and what they highlighted in that opening. And it does kind of underscore their whole argument that, like, yes, there was a chain, but you got to the top of the chain when Charlie was convicted, and it ended there. That now they can essentially say that, you know, sure, up until this point, yes, there was a top of that food chain, but it's not this woman, and she, in fact, is very aggrieved. So I think that tension is going to continue throughout this whole trial. It'll be interesting to see if the jury does react poorly to this juxtaposition of his real parents and this woman who's on trial. If they react poorly, if we see the defense alter that strategy at all, because I could really see what you're saying. You know, the jury responding with a little bit of, that's a slap in the face. Let's stop that. And a good defense attorney would at that point pivot, I think. So we'll see how the jury reacts.
Now, interesting that you think that she may continue. We'll be watching. Our viewers may have noticed that the cameras did move for a second inside of that courtroom. Judge Everett walked in, but then he walked out, so our cameras have to go back to the seal. I can tell you Judge Everett is very much on time, running a very tight ship inside of that courtroom. But sometimes these jurors, so far, I mean, this is just day one, so we're not going to put any labels on them, but it seems that some have taken longer than normal bathroom breaks. We've stood and waited for them to come in, and then we've all sat down and waited again for them to come in. So we'll see once they get started, and of course we've got our camera there, so we'll be able to take you in live. But Mackenzie, I want to dig more into what you're talking about with the defense, because they had to make a decision here. They made a decision to go the route of not really detailing a theory of what happened inside of this family. They talked more about Danny, his life, how great he was, and talked about how Donna had nothing to do with this, that there's no evidence of a murder. Contrasting that with Charlie Adelson's defense 2 years ago. He gave the jury a story through his attorney, and then eventually when he got on the stand, he said, look, the reason that I was paying these hitmen, the reason that I was doing this is because they went out and did it themselves, and then they blackmailed me in order to keep me paying them so that it wouldn't look like I was involved. It was a strange story, but they stuck to it throughout the trial. Do you think that this was a point of contention between Donna and her attorneys? Because we thought perhaps she was going to have the same blackmailing theory, but we didn't hear that inside of the courtroom.
Yeah, I think the family interplay here and then adding attorneys into that mix has been really interesting and will be really interesting as we see this trial play out, because obviously there was some attorney switching about who could represent whom, and I believe a lot of that has to do with whether these strategies clash. And then obviously a lot of strong personalities guiding what the defenses can be. It really does sound like whether this originated with the attorney or essentially with Donna herself, it's hard to say. But it sounds like somebody is pushing for, it's very plausible that we can make the case that nothing happened because there's no concrete evidence. And I do think that is the weakest piece of the prosecution's case. Obviously, when we see pieces like that letter hinted at, and I imagine a lot of these text messages that were referenced by the defense foreshadow what the prosecution is going to bring in lieu of maybe more direct evidence. But it'll be interesting to see what those pieces of evidence actually show and how much they can keep up this strategy of, you got nothing. Donna's very sad. We're very sad. We're all on the same side here. There are pieces of evidence that obviously will call that into question. The letter being one of them, that script that they said represents a very different strategy than the one and a different theory of the case depicted in the opening. So if that clashes in her own words, that's going to be a problem.
Very, very true. Love the analysis. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. They also didn't mention that she's going to testify to this jury, though we've heard in pretrial hearings that that is the plan. Let's get to a break. We see that they haven't come back from their lunch break inside of the courtroom, so we'll slip in one here and expect that they will be back on the record with a new witness when we return. You are watching Court TV as we follow the matriarch mastermind murder trial in Tallahassee, Florida. All right, you hear the prosecutor there asking about these items that Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia would have purchased, including a motorcycle, a 1996 Honda. Let's bring in our guest who is standing by to talk quickly about this. We have with us attorney from New York City, trial attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan is with us. Mackenzie, great to have you on. I want to ask you this because we're hearing a lot of names that are not Donna Adelson right now. We're all going to continue to listen. But if she doesn't ever get to the point where Donna paid anything before the murder of Dan Markel, perhaps she helped with payments afterward, does that equal reasonable doubt for a solicitation or conspiracy charge?
Yeah, it very well could. I was thinking the same thing as I'm listening to this testimony. The biggest connection that I could make is the testimony from the estranged brother, or Donna's son, Rob, yesterday, that Donna was always the one to sign off on the checks. So that's pretty attenuated in and of itself to connect to these financial records. Obviously, we haven't seen the end of this witness's testimony. We haven't seen the end of the case in chief. So who knows if they'll make those connections more strongly. But, electronic documents and these types of financial records especially tend to be more likely to make juries' eyes glaze over because it's just data. I mean, look at the last chart that she pulled up to connect that he's making fewer overdrafts, and presumably that is proof that this is a new financial boon to him, that it's not the normal pattern. Those are a lot of jumps that the jury has to make, and obviously I assume they'll draw those connections better in closing at the very least, but it leaves a lot of opportunities for doubt for the jury. On the other hand, I thought some of the testimony, especially from yesterday, was pretty damning from the children and then from the ex-boyfriend of Wendy. Those made some pretty strong connections, so maybe pairing them together and kind of burying this financial witness within those more compelling stories is a decent strategy. I guess we'll see.
Sure. And initially, when they did this trial 2 years ago with Charlie Adelson, Catherine McBanoa, who received those checks allegedly from Donna Adelson, she came after this witness. So we'll see how they order things this time around. Mackenzie, stand by. We're going to take our break. When we come back, we've got more of day 3 of the case against Donna Adelson happening here in the Leon County Courthouse after this. Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are coming to you live from Tallahassee, Florida, where just inside this courthouse is the day 3 of the trial against Donna Adelson. We'll get you back into court there in just a minute, but we do want to keep you updated on this case that's happening out in California for music sensation Cardi B. She is dealing with a civil assault trial, and she's expected to take the stand today. The star rapper is being accused of striking a security guard during a prenatal appointment that she was having when she was about 4 months pregnant. She claims that this altercation was merely a brief verbal argument and denies any physical contact, but that hasn't stopped her from being sued by this guard. Earlier today, before testimony got underway, the attorneys for both parties got into some heated arguments. Let's take a listen to that.
So, in the middle of the trial, when I'm not able to depose this person and do nothing with her, they're just going to randomly throw out this person. Well, let's bring this person into trial. It's not fair, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to start with the prejudice argument, which is that they didn't know who these people were. Actually, plaintiff testified yesterday that within a few weeks of this February 2018 incident, she called Ms. Malcolm. She worked in the building. She knew Ms. Malcolm. She knew Dr. Finke, who came out. And they didn't identify them. They knew them and they didn't identify them. So to say that, well, he's been prejudiced because he didn't take their depositions, she's known since 2018 who the doctor was and who Tiara was.
I'm declaring under penalty of perjury. I did not go into his doctor's office.
Okay.
That is an absolute lie and false.
Okay.
And I don't think that's right.
So that's just a little bit of what's going on today. We are going to continue to bring you updates throughout the day here on Court TV Live, but you can also stream this case live on courttv.com and on our YouTube page. For now, let's take you back inside of the Leon County Courthouse, where I am right now. It's day 3 of the matriarch mastermind murder trial for defendant Donna Adelson, where she stands accused of killing her ex-son-in-law, Dan Markel. The prosecution says she was at the top of this plot that involved her own son, Charlie Adelson, his ex-girlfriend, Catherine McBanawa, and 2 hitmen that we are hearing about inside of the courtroom. There's a fraud examiner, financial investigator that's testifying about all of the money and how it's connected. And she's just talked about how right after the murder, she saw the purchases from those hitmen of motorcycles and cars. She's going to get into what was going on with the Adelson money at the time. Let's watch.
And so those were all purchased within 3 months of the murder?
That's correct.
And can you tell us about Garcia's bank accounts?
There was not a bank account located during the time or shortly after the murder. He did have one, let's see, from June 15th to July 16th.
Okay, so from June of 2015 to July 2016, he established a bank account and maintained it.
Yes.
All right, and during that time, was he having paychecks being direct deposited into that account?
Yes.
From what company?
He was employed at Rapid Capital Funding at that time.
Okay. But before of June 2015, there were no bank records that we could find to review for Garcia.
There was no account located for him.
All right. And did he work regularly in 2014, around the time of the murder?
Actually, his employment record, at least with Coastal Masonry, was very sporadic. He worked 2 months from February of 9 to December of 2009. In April 2010 to July 2010, he worked 3 months. October from 2012 to August of 2013, he worked 10 months. In April of 14, he worked 1 month.
Okay, and we have no record of him being employed at the time of the murder.
No.
So both Luis Rivera and Garcia both worked for Coastal Masonry. Rivera's job was consistent and steady, and Garcia's was more sporadic.
Correct.
All right. For Catherine McBanawa, did she already own a car according to the DHS&V records at the time of the murder?
She did.
And what type of car was that?
That was one second.
Here, I might be able to show you something to help move it along. Sorry, if you're having trouble finding it.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were reviewing the messages in this case, did you find some evidence that Charlie Adelson helped her financially with a car that she had in 2014?
Yes.
Okay, and was that car, in these messages, did they refer to this car as her needing to get it fixed, the parts alone are expensive, and she's asking, I need a loan, buddy, frowny face?
That's correct.
Okay, and does she say, you know, just imagine if I took it to another mechanic?
Yes.
All right, did Charlie Adelson in the messages have a mechanic that was a friend of his that he would refer people, especially Catherine McBanawa, to?
He did.
And was that person named Sully?
Yes, it was.
And does Charlie Adelson then respond, LOL, you'll be fine, I got you. I just texted Sully my CC.
That's correct.
And she says, stop paying for S word, she misspells it, on your card.
Yes.
And this was in November of 2014?
It is.
Okay. So he's offering to give her the loan she wants and is texting Sully what appears to be his credit card number.
That's correct.
All right. In May of 2015, are they still discussing her car repairs?
Yes, they are. And it says it's a Mazda.
Okay. So in this one, she needs her time. He says you need your belt changed. Just bring it to Mazda. And does he offer to take care of it for her?
Yes.
And she's saying yes, she needs to take it ASAP?
Yes.
And what do we see here in November of 2015?
This is a text message exchange about him paying for the repairs for that car.
Okay. And in this exchange, Charlie Adelson is continuing to offer to put these repairs on his credit card?
Yes.
And this is Charlie Adelson words in blue and Catherine Ibanez's words in green?
That's correct.
And at the end of that conversation, does Catherine McBanwell let Charlie Adelson know how much the repairs ended up being?
Yes.
And what was the amount?
$1,650.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on the next page. I think you are correct at the bottom of that.
That's what he authorized to put on his card, but the actual payment was for $1,620.77.
Okay, thank you. So looking at the bottom of this exchange, Catherine McBanwell estimates, she says, just put $1,630, and Charlie Adelson offers, how about I put $1,650?
Yes.
So he offers, I'll even pay $30 more.
Yes.
And then she says it came out to $1,620. She says, thanks again, I'll pay you back. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then when you looked at Charlie Adelson's Amex, what did you find?
I found the payment to Mazda for the $1,620.77.
At the end of 2015, after all these repairs and Charlie Adelson offering to help her financially with these repairs, at the end of 2015, does it appear that Catherine McBanwell got a different car?
She did.
And what's the first indication of that?
There was the title. We looked up for the GHSMV records and saw where it was purchased.
Okay. Were there also messages?
All right, we have to hit our break. A few of you have asked on social media about Donna Adelson wearing those headphones, and I can tell you from being inside of that courtroom, it's not easy to hear everything that's happening. Just the acoustics in that room, you hear it better watching it on Court TV than you do inside of the courtroom because everyone's microphone is going straight into our audio. So with those headphones, she's able to hear everything a lot crisper. And we understand she has some issues with her ears. She mentioned some small ear canals and some filings in the past. Let's get to a break, and when we come back, we have more of the trial of Donna Adelson here in Tallahassee, Florida.
When the queen come through, y'all better move back.
Cardi B is back in the courtroom, facing civil allegations for allegedly attacking a security guard.
The Cardi B assault trial. Trial coverage today on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, prosecutors continue building their case against Donna Adelson. We're unpacking today's key testimony as our experts weigh in.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We're coming to you live from the Leon County Courthouse, where we are watching together testimony in the case against Donna Adelson. And we're picking it up where we left off with a financial investigator who was taking these jurors through the finances of people around the time of the murder of this man, Dan Markel. He was a law professor and father of two, gunned down in his own driveway. And that financial investigator has talked about the hitmen who took his life, who have already been convicted in this case. The question now is whether his ex-mother-in-law, Donna Adelson, was involved in that plot. Let's go in.
Were there also messages where they discuss basically her having the Lexus now, Charlie Adelson needs to cancel his insurance on the Lexus.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, can you go through what we see here?
This is where he's discussing on December 14, 2015, that he's canceling the Lexus insurance. And she said she would get to it. She has the kids, she would do it later. And then he says, I just paid for it.
Okay. And in these messages, when he says he's going to cancel the Lexus insurance today on December 14th of 2015, does he say, just spoke to my mom, she's paying the insurance now, just please go this Saturday, smiley face?
Yes.
And that's when she's saying, I'll do it, I've got my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
does Charlie Adelson then say, just paid it, they'll prorate it back to us, just go Saturday, don't rush today? And she's saying, I'll take care of it, don't worry.
Yes.
Does he say, already paid it 5 minutes ago, just chill, you are still the best?
That's correct.
You mentioned the DHS-MV records in this case. What do we see here?
This is showing that the title transfer between Harvey and Catherine.
And what date did this take place?
This says
let me see if I can zoom in a little.
January 23rd, 2016. On the right-hand side.
Right here?
Yes, January 23rd, 2016.
Okay. And what type of vehicle was that?
That was a Lexus.
A 2001 Lexus?
Black four-door, that's correct.
And the previous owner is listed as Harvey Jerome Adelson?
Yes.
How much did this DHS-MV title indicate that it was sold to Magbanois for?
$1,700.
And that's there on the right side of the screen?
Yes.
Were you able to find any record of payment from Catherine Magbanois to any of the Adelsons for this vehicle?
No.
Did you search all her accounts?
Yes.
Was there any check, or maybe she just withdrew that amount of cash? Was there any cash withdrawal for that amount?
Nothing that correlated.
Were you able to find any deposit into, let's say she already had that cash at home, any deposit into the Adelson's account for that amount?
No.
Was there, in a little while, we'll see that she was receiving money from Adelson Institute, correct?
That's correct.
Was there any drop in the money she was receiving from Adelson Institute in that time to account for maybe this was just taken out of her salary?
No.
Can you insure a vehicle without transferring title?
No.
Do you have to put a sales price or list it as a gift on the title transfer?
That's correct.
If you say it's a sale on the title transfer, are you taxed?
Yes.
Is there a financial benefit for listing a really low sales price on a title transfer for a vehicle?
Yes, it makes the registration fees less.
And who decides what number goes on the title?
Normally, it's usually the seller that's supposed to put that on there, but all the transactions I've ever heard of, they just leave it blank and let the buyer put in the amount.
So just the person who's submitting it to the tax office so they can later get their car insured?
That's correct.
So if I sell a car to you for $3,000, but we agree to put $300 on the title transfer, we would pay less taxes on it?
Yes.
Looking at other written communications between Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanois, did it appear that Charlie Adelson provided other financial assistance or gifts to Catherine Magbanois?
Yes.
I was trying to go to the next slide, but I think I got to zoom out first. What do we see here in Charlie Adelson's Amex records?
So this is a purchase of airline tickets for Catherine Magbanois on March 6, 2015. for a flight to Santo Domingo, and that was $970.74.
And the passenger name is there at the bottom, Catherine McBanois?
Yes.
Okay, other than these $970 worth of airline tickets to Santo Domingo, were there other evidence of financial assistance or gifts?
Yes, there was.
Looking here on October 19th.
All right, we've reached the top of the hour, so we do have to get to our break. Before we do that, let's bring back in trial attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan. Mackenzie, we're hearing more about the Adelsons now. Even someone who's inside of that courtroom who has not been charged at all in this case, Harvey Adelson, his Lexus given at a steal to someone who has been convicted in this case. You saw the camera go over to him. But talk about if you think we're getting there in terms of what the financial investigator is telling jurors.
I think in a weird way, it's a race against time before we lose the jurors' attention on some of these really dry details, and whether we can see a connection that's really compelling to the Adelsons before they lose their focus. So, excuse my cat here. But I guess we'll see if the connection gets really strong to Donna herself. Harvey obviously is connected to her, and we had some foundation laid that he doesn't do much without her approving it. But you also heard Wendy really try to undercut that yesterday by saying, well, you know, they both are strong, they make their own decisions. So I don't know how much that's landed yet, and I don't know who else we'll hear from. So it could be strengthened as the trial goes on.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those characteristics and the fact that they set up that she is the one running things in her household. That's what those lay witnesses were able to talk about. Mackenzie Joy Brennan, thank you for your analysis and expertise this hour. We have a lot more ahead, more testimony in the matriarch mastermind murder trial for Donna Adelson. Plus, we'll be checking in on the Cardi B civil assault trial happening out in California. All that after this on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.